Hello. I had planned that I made two videos today, and I said, that's enough. I'm done. But my mind is still racing, all right? And I want to do another video on escalation. Things escalate, especially in training. The only way things don't escalate is if there is someone doing something to make sure it doesn't escalate. That's why you should have referees. That's why if an instructor, for example, wants to spar his students because that's part of his training for an upcoming tournament or test or something, I'm not against that, okay? But if he or she is going to do that, that person should appoint someone else or someone's else, other people, to monitor the sparring, to sort of referee. Now, ideally, if you have two people sparring, you have one person refereeing. I know that's unrealistic. Say you've got 4 rings, as it were, going on. At the very least, 1 or 2 people, or even 5 rings, 1 or 2 people are going back and forth, monitoring, calling out commands. Hey, Joey, slow down. You're hitting too hard. Mary, hey, don't kick her like that, right? To make sure things don't escalate, because it will escalate. Even if you're doing what today they call flow sparring, we would call it, slow sparring or easy sparring. Things will escalate. I have gotten hit harder and more viciously in point matches or sparring than I have in full contact sparring. All right, and the thing is, because in full contact sparring, you start off with the understanding you're going to hit, and you have the option of hitting not so hard or hitting hard. And the thing is, the minute you hit hard, you're going to get hit hard back. Okay, so you kind of, as you're figuring each other out, you're figuring out the level of punishment you're willing to give and take. And if you're much better than your opponent, you could probably deliver tons and tons of punishment. First of all, the instructor should intervene. Second of all, oftentimes, unless they're just a real bad person, like a real mean-spirited person, or they have a lot of issues in their life and they just want to vent it on another human being, oftentimes, because their opponent is not capable of hitting them hard and inflicting damage on them, they will back off. Okay, they're not being triggered, and their ego is not being threatened, or their ego is more threatened by the fact that, well, if I'm seen pounding on this rank beginner who's not in great shape and can't fight well, it's just going to not look good for me. No one's going to like me. They're going to think there's no honor in it. I'm not showing any skill. But things do escalate. Whereas when I'm doing non-contact sparring and point sparring, oftentimes, as we're sparring each other, and I'm pulling my shots, and the other person gets frustrated. This has happened to me multiple times, okay, from being a teenager, to even at this age. And what happens is the other person gets frustrated because I'm outscoring them, I'm outmaneuvering them. And so they just up their speed, their power, their aggression, and come in and bop me as hard as they can with a big old technique. And because I've been, intentionally keeping things down, I'm sort of ambushed by it, and I've gotten hit hard that way. All right, and the worst kind is when they don't just throw one hard shot, they try to blitz you and take you out. And in which case you went from kind of a game mode to survival mode. All right, and that's when your temper can flare. And I'm happy to say I've been able to control those situations and keep up without necessarily going full tilt and hurting someone. My biggest tool when that happens is throw a super hard, super fast, efficient body shot. Then back off, and if they come again, throw another body shot, start throwing combinations off the body shot, but I just focus on the body shot, right? Nowadays, well, when I was at Zinni's, we could leg kick. I would just slowly start adding more leg kicks and adding more force to the leg kicks. And I find people don't like being leg kicked, especially by me. I've got very strong legs. People compare them to like turnips or tree trunks, okay, for my short height. And there's a lot of power, right? I do have to come in close. If I find that someone has escalated and is trying to hurt me, and I'm going for their head, that's when I'm losing my cool. I'm not living up to my standards, unless it's so desperate that I feel like this person has to get hurt, right? So I'll give you an example. This was when I was very, very much into Kung Fu and very, very much into competition. I was in my 30s. And we had gone all the way to Texas. I think it was called the Tai Chi Legacy Kung Fu Tai Chi Tournament. And we were doing continuous sparring. And I was facing off against an Eagle Claw Sifu. And they had these rules, which were very vague. Incredibly vague. And then instead of giving us... We were all classical Kung Fu stylists. Instead of giving us judges with experience in this... Well, one guy was bragging, "You guys are very lucky. You have Sanshao judges." And I'm like, that's not going to do us any good. We're not fighting by Sanshao rules. And I was thinking, does that mean I go all out? So I think my opponent, who was an Eagle Claw Sifu from Texas somewhere, we touch gloves, and boom, he just charges at me, and he starts throwing punches to my head. And he was going full tilt, like trying to go for a knockout. And again, light contact continuous probably, I'm going to say this, light contact continuous sparring has always proved to be the most problematic, inconsistent, chaotic fighting format that there is. And it almost always degenerates into full contact. So, and we were using the old tournament style foam padded sparring gloves. The safety chop, right? And the foam padded headgear, not boxing headgear. I didn't have a mouthpiece on, and I think I didn't have a groin cup on. And we had the safety leg, and I didn't have shin protectors, and I don't think my opponent had shin protectors, but our hands and feet were padded. We had this headgear. So I said, all right, I'm going to hit this guy. Like, I'm not taking this crap. And he went in. And he starts, again, he threw like a kick to draw my hands and comes in, and he was throwing power hooks. Like they said, you couldn't hit the front of the face, you could hit the side of the head. And the title of the sparring is Light Contact Continuous. So I'm thinking light contact, maybe moderate contact. We were fighting in the advanced division, which also is very... They had beginner, intermediate, advanced. So in advance, you could be someone who's just at like a first degree black sash level, or you could be a veteran competitor with a chain of schools who does nothing but train all day. So the ambiguity. Well, I said, you know what? I'm just going to fall back on what I know. I'm going to do that Wing Chun punch that seems to work wonders for me. So he threw the first punch. Immediately, my hand's coming up on the center line. There was another punch coming in. And again, my punch goes up. And boom, that wrist motion at the end of it, pop, right? I hit the tip of his nose, and I aimed for the back of his head. Pow! He just stopped in his tracks. And his head snapped back, right? And then when he kind of snapped forward, I was ready to throw another punch, and the referee breaks us up, and he's like, tells the other guy, go to your corner. And the guy started yelling at the referee, like yelling and screaming profanity, probably talking about how I violated the rule about punching the front of the face and everything. But then again, I'm a fighter. If you hit me, I hit you back. What do you think is going to happen? If you hit me hard, I will hit you hard back. Okay? If the format I'm fighting in is called light contact and you hit me hard, I will not hit you light. I will hit you hard. And I'm a classically trained Kung Fu man. I hit you with Kung Fu techniques. I'm not going to revert to boxing so much as I'm going to revert to trying to injure you or break something. I feel totally good with hurting that man. Okay? As far as I'm concerned, if you're in a light contact format and you're going heavy, you deserve to get hit. He starts arguing with the ref, screaming. He takes off his headgear and chucks it. And the guy's like, "Oh, if you're being disrespectful, you're disqualified." And judge came over, raised my hand, winner. And it was kind of lucky for me that this Eagle Claw Sifu lost his cool, all right? Because he started to bleed from both nostrils. I had broken his nose. And had he waited just a little bit longer, they would have seen the blood. They would have disqualified me because they were like, "Don't draw blood." So I'm still there ringside. Another match happens, and there weren't a lot of people in the advanced division, and we weren't broken up by weight. So my next opponent was one of Henry Puyi's, I think the late Henry Puyi's, Southern Mantis, Juklin Pai people. And he was kind of like my build, shorter, squatter, strong guy. And the Juklin Pai people, they do not box. They use their Juklin Pai. And so we began, and immediately, these mantis hands are coming at me, the finger pokes and, the one knuckles, and I'm like, all right. Immediately, I start doing snake and tiger, right? Start throwing kicks, and he's throwing his low kicks, which are perfectly controlled at my groin, and I'm throwing chest and head kicks, and I'm throwing, finger pokes to his eyes. And immediately, the referee warns us. He's like, "Y'all have to use legal techniques. You can't use that." And he's like, "Begin." And we go again, and I'm like, he's really good up top. He's really good with his hands. So I drop down, did a spinning sweep. He falls down. I get on top of him. I'm throwing strikes, and he's striking back. And I wasn't really into grappling then, so we were striking. And the referee breaks up. He's like, "I told you guys, you can't do that. We're kung fu people. We use control. You got to use legal techniques." I'm like, "This is kung fu. They're all legal techniques." And he says, "Begin," and we just go at each other, perfectly controlled, fast as possible, close range. I'm using Wing Chun, Snake Tiger. He's using his Juklin Pai, and immediately they break us up and they disqualified both of us. All right. So, escalation is real. Bonus round. I have seen more injuries. The kick that I have seen injure more people in more places, severely injured. I've seen more knockouts from the spinning hook kick thrown kind of blindly in non-contact and light contact and continuous matches than I have anywhere else. People get angry and someone charges in, and if you're good at a spinning hook kick and you spin around, oftentimes it's a really hard kick to control. The head doesn't often turn often in time enough for you to spot the target. The only way to throw it safely is to kind of throw it in front of the person, but they'll often not give you a point. And so more often than not, you get heavy face contact and people get knocked out. Okay? I've never been knocked out with a spinning hook kick. I've been brushed with one in a humiliating manner across my face a couple times, and that just made me realize this person's really good. I need to respect those kicks. I need to either stay the heck out of range or get all the way in where they don't have room for this. Okay? And in training, I am embarrassed to say, I am ashamed to say that I once knocked out a student with a spinning hook kick, right? And he had to be hospitalized, and out of the goodness of his heart, he did not sue the school I was in. And once someone I went to college with was, filming a kind of a martial arts kind of movie, but it was it was like a 10-minute feature, and it was for like a film contest. And we filmed a fight scene, and during the fight scene, I threw a spinning hook kick, and he was unconscious. He was unconscious for long enough that I was worried. I'm like, I hope I didn't kill my friend. And I was like, he's breathing. Okay. Fred, you okay? And he kind of came to, and I'm like, he was like, ugh. Oh, that was a good one. We got to finish this scene, and we did. All right. It's not about control, because two people that have really good control, one of them can still escalate. So physical control, distance control, hand-eye coordination of not, being able to stop your blows can be perfect, but mentally, even if you don't go out of control, like even if you don't get mad and decide to knock the other person out, oftentimes it is just reflexively, if you get hit, your body wants to hit, especially if you're trained right. So escalation is the most dangerous thing in training.